we're coming up in, I'll come up in 30 seconds. Hello, Bernadette. Hey, Robert, you excellency. And we're coming up in 15. And we're coming up in 10. And we are up. Let me see your beautiful face. There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. We've been talking with Colleen Rowley in the last hour about the Charlie Kirk assassination and Tyler Robinson, the accused assassin. Um, well, he's been charged in this case, and if he's found guilty, he will face the death penalty. So we'll just have to see how this all works out. But we were talking about a lot of the larger implications of the case. We'll be delving into that more deeply as we go forward, because it's important that we do that. And I know Dr. Julianne Malveaux, the brilliant economist, president emeritus of Bennett College for Women, would want us to. I mean, as we talk about Black women and our job losses, before we get into that, two young Black men uh, were found hanged in Mississippi on Monday morning. Many of our Black colleges have been on lockdown because the left and wink nod Black people have been blamed for setting the tone that killed Charlie Kirk. Now, interestingly enough, he had a platform in which he said, "Prove me wrong." So he was open to debating anyone, anytime. What makes the relationship with him a little challenging beyond his espousals of beliefs that were racist was that he was, by all appearances, a nice guy. Somebody did it with a smile, and he was, engaging. That having been said, he did say things that were cruel and that were wrong. And so we need to look at what is really behind this assassination, everyone, because the black children, Black students are taking the hit in a big, big, big way. And that is as we see that he was shifting his position in a way that troubled his donors. That is beginning to come out. I encourage you to look at the article in the Gray Zone by Max Blumenthal, in which he talks about this shift that you saw him making quite publicly in the last 2 or 3 months of his life. And he feared that he would pay with his life for making this shift. We need to talk about that. But our hearts go out to his family, but to these two families down in Mississippi, two young Black men who were found hanged. Indeed, in the case of Troy Reed, the 21-year-old Delta State University student, he had broken limbs, and the police said that they do not suspect foul play. How do you hang yourself with broken limbs? We'll talk more about that tomorrow, I promise you, because I want to know what is going on. But many of our students are still afraid to go to class because a lot of misleading is going on right now. Black students, Black people, and people on the left, even though all Black people are not on the left, are being blamed for this. And that is nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. This is a fight that has nothing to do with the left and the right at all. So keep that in mind. You know what? I want us to look at another issue that has been overlooked. Black women and job losses. Between February and July of this year, more than 319,000 Black women lost their jobs. Now, the majority of Black households are headed by Black women economically, more than half. And I want to dig down into the numbers and really into the social fallout with a former Black college president, because I know a lot of people are not going to be able to go back to school. It's harder to get loans. And I want to know what happened here, because as 300 plus thousand Black women lost their jobs. White women gained 142,000 jobs. Hispanic women gained 176,000 jobs. White men gained 365,000 jobs. And see, no one is talking about that. 142,000 jobs white women got. 176,000 jobs Hispanic women got. 365,000 jobs white men got. Now, mind you, I don't begrudge anyone having a job. I just want to know why so many Black women lost their jobs. And what does all of this mean? Because people are saying, one of your colleagues, a gender economist by the name of Katika Roy, said that, you know what, Black women are the canaries in the mine. Because while these jobs with AI becoming a very, very real factor in our lives, will they hold on to these jobs? I mean, let's just really, really look at let's really understand what we're looking at. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, I need you to put on your economist hat, which you always have tucked away. Help me to understand. Make this make sense for me. That seems like a staggeringly high number of jobs to have lost. It seems systemic. Was it DEI, affirmative action, uh, ending those programs? Was it losing government jobs? What happened, and how is it that other groups saw such tremendous job growth?
Santita, people never pay attention to the micro data. Every time we hear the unemployment rate, first Friday of the month, we get the unemployment rate, and they don't talk about the subgroups. So this is one of the few times, and I want to shout out Dr. Rhonda Sharp, who has an organization called Wiser that looks at women in science, economics, and engineering. I think when it's called Wiser. And Google it. It's a very good organization. But she always talks about disaggregation. How when you get one number, it doesn't tell you the whole story. And this is a prime example of that. We heard that the unemployment rate ticked up just a little bit, which it did. We've heard that the economy only generated 22,000 jobs, which is pitiful, which is evidence of coming recession. Frankly, to only create that many jobs, economists were predicting about 100,000. We ended up with a quarter of that. So that's concerning. But why did Black women take the biggest hit? Here's the answer. Number one, government jobs. We're overrepresented in government jobs. So all that Doge nonsense, laying people off, that hit Black women harder than it hit anybody else. So that's number one. Number two, of course, you mentioned DEI. And the fact is that many companies have cut back on any diversity efforts because they don't think they're worth it. And of course, most of the people, not most, but a disproportionate number of the people who held those jobs were what? Black women. So essentially, again, you see a double hit. And then when we look at state and local jobs, because we're talking about federal, when we look at state and local jobs, you saw it there as well. Black women are catching hell, but guess what? We're also raising hell. I mean, we are catching hell with this economy because, as you said earlier, more than half of all Black households are headed by women. So that's, I was talking to a colleague this morning, and she was talking long term, saying, okay, what does this mean for their mortgages? What does this mean for their children's tuition? What does this mean moving forward? And I had not, well, I thought about it, but the way she put it was quite poignant and reminds us of the role that Black women play in the Black economy, which people do not pay a lot of attention to. I'm disturbed that we haven't heard from some of our civil rights organizations who are quick to issue statements about this or that, but have not issued statements about, our women who are losing jobs. And I'm disturbed that many of these white women's organizations as well, who want to sing kumbaya with us when it's convenient, have not talked about the loss of jobs in the Black community. And as you say, we are the canary in the minefield. We've seen it time and time again. But these numbers are very, very disturbing. The other part of it that's disturbing, there's a piece of data. It's called the employment population ratio. It's a percentage of the population that is employed. Now, in the last cycle, March to May, everybody's MPOP went down. but most people's income went down by a tenth of a percentage point. So going from, let's say, 67.6 to 67.5. But with a black woman, which is also a whole 2 percentage point drop, which suggests that black women, as the other data, the 300,000 data says, black women are being disengaged from the labor market. We have always, years ago, because I've been writing forever. Years ago, I wrote something that said black women were born with a broom in their hand. And that was a reference to data that came out about 1890. In 1890, of course, that's a million years ago, but in 1890, black girls, little girls aged 10 to 14, a large percentage of them had jobs because we worked in households, and that's what we were born serving. And that's really in 1940, 70% of black women were maids, worked in other people's houses. But as we began to move out of private household work and the other kinds of work, first the doors opened with the federal government, and that doors open with the federal government for black women first. So that's where we got clerical jobs. Many black women worked. My mama did for a minute. Worked at the post office. You said that you could always find a job at the post office, but many black women moved out of household work into clerical work
Mm-hmm.
to the federal government. But now that's dialing back on us, and we have to ask, as that dials back, what does that mean? And what it means is less economic freedom for black women. And it means that like I said, our sister organizations, NCNW, et cetera, are talking about this. But I always am troubled when our civil rights organizations don't really address black women. And then the irony herein, it's not just that. I'm glad that you mentioned the two young men who were found hung. You don't hang yourself. It's very difficult to hang yourself. And the brother at Delta, I think it's Delta State University in Mississippi.
21 years of age with broken limbs.
Yeah, so he did not climb on a stool, and he was killed. He was lynched. He was lynched. And this has happened time and again. And it's ironic that this happens at the same time that we're looking at the murder of the 4 little girls, looking at the church that was bombed and the girls who were in that church. We are in a war for our lives.
Wait a minute. It was on the anniversary. They were found on the anniversary of the 16th Street church bombing, September 15th.
Yes.
They were found that morning.
Yes.
And it is just being reported now. One of them, but it was actually Corey Zucatus. It's 2 of them, two black men in the state of Mississippi on the same day. And then we're watching our children locked down. That's why I want to bring out the details of what Charlie Kirk was dealing with politically, Dr. Malveaux, because this is not about us. And yet you have the vice president who hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast. He had as his guest Stephen Miller, who said, we're going to go after the left. Really, wait a minute.
You talk about hate speech. You talk about hate speech.
Yeah, but Benjamin Netanyahu has insinuated himself into this. He's talking about this all the time. I'm like, wait a minute. And he and Charlie Kirk were at odds. No one wants to talk about that. They were in a fight because he was funding TPUSA. So it's like, wait a minute. But in the meantime, our young people are taking the hit. In the meantime, while Doge is wiping out all of these jobs, how is it that black women lost 319,000 jobs, white women gained 142,000, Hispanic women gained 176,000, and white men gained 365,000 jobs? Help me. Make that make sense.
Well, they're different industrial concentrations. It's where black women were as opposed to where Latina or other women were. So
Okay.
that's the difference in industrial concentrations hits. Like when you say you're going to cut government jobs, black people represent about 13% of the population, but we represent about 18% of government jobs. So you say you're going to cut government jobs, you're cutting black people. When you say, you're not cutting manufacturing jobs, you're cutting government jobs. And that to me was a openly deliberate attack on the black community. Now, of course, nobody would have framed it that way. Doge came in and said, we're just trying to be efficient. It's what your efficiency is my unemployment.
Well, then, but so help me to let's take this from the macro down to the micro. What does this mean? You're in Washington, which Washington D.C., which is one of the wealthiest communities, the DMV, D.C.,
Yeah.
Maryland, Virginia area, one of the wealthiest areas. In fact, it houses the wealthiest Black community in the United States, PG County.
Yes.
What does that mean when you unplug uh, this government job with benefits? And government jobs can pay quite well, quite frankly,
Yeah.
right? Um, so help me to understand, what does that mean? How does that impact people, these women and their
Well,
families?
if you were getting a regular paycheck and you bought your mortgage, you bought your house based on the paycheck that you had, and you made plans like you could take care of your child's tuition based on the paycheck that you had. Now you don't have that paycheck anymore. So what are you going to do? This becomes a serious issue um, in terms of economic survival. And again, as you said earlier, more than half of all Black households are headed by women.
Mm-hmm.
So when you mention Prince George's County, I shudder at what will happen there as more and more people lose jobs. And the other piece of that
Well, no,
is
no, Shutter. Wait a minute before you move on. Let's stay right there for a minute. What do you see happening?
I see bankruptcies, I see downsizing, I see combination of households. Does happen in times like this where people, in fact, I just met a woman who doing some things at her house. I'm doing some things in my house. And we were talking about it. And she said she's prepared to rent out rooms in her beautiful palatial place in Prince George's County. She's prepared to do rooms in order to meet her mortgage because she's afraid that her job is going to be cut.
Wow.
So um, and that goes back to back in the day when that's basically what many of us did when we had rent parties and things like that. Now, I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, but I think the data speak for itself. In addition to the fact the Fed will meet tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen. The interest rate is likely to be lowered just because inflation is up. So the interest rate is likely, but it's not going to be lowered as far as that president would like it to be lowered. That's not going to happen because that's just not economically prudent. So all the signs, Bob, what's his name? Anyway, Bob Kuttner actually wrote a piece and he said, are we ready for stagflation?
What is that?
Stagflation is where the economy is stagnant, but prices keep going up. Stagnant and inflation. They don't go together, but when they do go together, we have a miserable economy. And all the signs, we're 3 months out of Christmas. And all I say to my friends who are parents is, I hope you bought all your gifts in July because the tariff situation is such that things are going to be more expensive. And things are going to be more expensive at a time when people can't afford them. So it's not just that things are going to be more expensive, and you have less money.
Well, let me ask you this, because you've been the president emeritus of Bennett College for Women. I remember coming home coming back to my dormitory, which was home. Everybody, that's what happens when you get to college. My father told me that would happen. I couldn't imagine it until I got to school, and that little room
That was your home.
that became my home, and that lovely room I left in Chicago was no longer my home. I've become a visitor, and my father was right. But I remember coming home, and it was my dormitory, Bethune Hall, everybody, at Howard University, which houses the quadrangle, and it's five dormitories actually. And there was, because not all of the not all of the not all of the buildings in the quad had central air. My building did not. Crandall Hall did not have central air, but we got a wonderful fan. I was young, and my roommate Sharon Buffett and I, who became my line sister, we were all right because we had a big old fan. But you know what people also did, Dr. Malvo? They would open up the windows and they put their televisions in the windows. get a nice breeze, look at the TV because it was springtime, right?
Mhm.
Well, I come home this particular day, and someone from the neighborhood had come in and had jumped up and grabbed this woman's, grabbed one of my classmates' televisions, and he was running, but his mistake was she was on the basketball team. I'll never forget this. And this girl broke camp and chased him down and got her TV back. I
Hey,
only say I say all of that to say that I'm wondering about burglaries, people taking
well, they're
from
going
the
to
neighbors. I
There,
mean,
no question that's going to go up. Crime is going to go up. It's going to go up.
Mhm.
It's economic crime. When somebody steals from the grocery store, they're not a bank robber. They need something to eat, and they're going
Hungry.
to get something to eat by whatever means necessary. And now you've got ICE and the National Guard and all these people roaming around. Um,
Oh no, they're here in Chicago. They're at work, Operation Midway. I mean, they actually killed someone. You see, Chappelle, the question that she's asking you about the $500 million to HBCUs. Now they pulled from
they took
the Hispanic neighborhoods.
360 back. The
Okay.
The Trump budget, whatever it is, they're asking this rescission. They're rescission 360. So first of all, I mean, her point first of all is very well taken. You can't get a loan unless you can qualify. Many parents cannot qualify. These sisters who just lost their jobs, they may have qualified for some financial aid for this semester, but if they have to resubmit their paperwork and they don't have a job, that means their young person is not going to be able to have access to those loans.
But it seems like they've been pulling back on the loans for a minute because, as you well know, the the loans, the requirements for loans were changed under the Obama administration, and that was
Yeah.
awful. I mean, because we lost more than 40,000 Black students at HBCUs.
Well, I
So,
was I was at I was at Bennett then, and I
I, I,
remember
so you
that's
tell
a
me
horrible
because
situation.
you took a real hit.
We took a hit. We did a lot of things, and the United Negro College Fund was extremely helpful. They did a special fundraiser to try to help close the gap, and they raised a couple of million, which wasn't a lot, but it was some. There are 39 HBCUs that belong to UNCF.
Mhm.
Um, they're the private ones. Thurgood Marshall has the public ones, but so $2 million passed around over 39 million 39 colleges isn't that much money. But we were able to save some students. We were able also to provide assistance to some seniors who didn't have didn't have the money to graduate. Many of them had back bills, and so we were able. But they did a special fundraiser, and they deserve a lot of credit for having done that. It was really important. But still, what you're doing is you're leaving students basically in the lurch, and with you, they've been cutting back. And what's her name, Linda McMahon, the wrestling lady who now leads the Department of Education. She yeah, she said that they couldn't give money to Black colleges because it's discriminatory, which ignores the reason that we have Black colleges. We have Black colleges because we could not go to other colleges. That's
Well,
why.
wait a minute. And now many white kids are going to Black
Oh
colleges.
yeah, look at I think it's West Virginia University, which was
Yeah.
an HBCU, and now it's not. And even here in Washington, I think the majority of the students at Howard Med are
Yeah.
not Black.
Well, we were always fighting that, and that became a real fight in the '80s because Black students were losing ground, and I guess that finally happened. And so here we are. So I don't know what they're talking about. Um, so help me to. I mean, just as we look at this job loss, Dr. Malvo, what can what can and should we be doing, because we're watching people who no one expected to go into at the beginning of 2024. If people had been told that they were going to lose these jobs, they would have said absolutely not. Some people just bought the house right?
They
Some
just
people,
qualified.
and some people just were just about to get out of probation and really get that job. That's over.
Yeah,
So tell me what's next? And Carol Soskin says, I just love Dr. Malvo. Everybody just loves you here.
I
And of course,
appreciate that.
she's on WPFW every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please get on out and support that show. So tell me, I mean, just because I mean, losing a paycheck is a really awful thing.
But it's real. It's real under this economy. And we're going to see more losses, frankly. We're going to see losses because of the whole tariff situation. We're going to be some smaller businesses who basically depend on goods from China. We'll see them probably lay people off, and some will even close. Some will even end up closing. This is going to, we keep hearing the president talk about all the benefits we're all going to get. He's going to the UK and he's talking about how the tariffs have raised money for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but at what cost? I mean, who's paid? And the tariffs don't put money in your pocket. They don't put money in, you know, Sister Susie with 3 kids' pocket. The tariff money is going to the United States Treasury. And what does the United States Treasury do? It provides benefits for the wealthy, not for those who are working class, who are middle class. It provides benefits for the wealthy. So this is a reverse, it's a tax on working people. Just no doubt about it.
So what are these women going to do? Have you? I'm sure, doubtless, you have spoken to some people who've lost these jobs. I mean, this has been like a bloodletting, and it has not stopped.
Some of these women are looking for all of them who've lost jobs, unless they're of retirement age, are looking for other work, looking for supplemental work. Me, myself, and I am looking for work as well. And I just fielded an offer from, I'm not going to be able to do it but I fielded an offer from a university somewhere to do online teaching. And people are going to start looking at those kind of alternatives. People are going to, people are going to be looking. If we talked about this, I think last week, about plan A, plan B, and plan C. You know,
Mhm.
it's multiple income streams that people have to really look at, and we have to look at, basically what our options are. It's going to require many of us to do a whole look at our skill set. What am I good at? What can I do? You got other people who are doing things like setting up side businesses, catering, um, other things. I know a young lady who just got laid off from the federal government, where she was in church. She was in charge. She was doing events management.
Mm.
So she said she could do event planning. So she's just got put together a little package and with business cards, and she says she can do events. The problem is, she and I talked about it. There are going to be a lot fewer events now
Hmm.
than there were. So good luck with that part. But I admire her entrepreneurial spirit and the fact that she said she's not going to mourn. She's going to move on. The other problem with that, the loss of these Black women, is the intellectual um, capital that we're losing. These are people who, like with the Department of Education, Santita, a good portion, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but a good portion of those who are processing student loan applications have lost their jobs. So student loan applications are being slowed because the people who process them aren't there anymore. But even more than that, as one woman told me a few weeks ago, she was on my radio show. She said, "You don't just process a student loan application. There's a skill to it." She says, and she's claimed that in her office, her former office, there's nobody. She said nobody knows how to do it. Like, there are 3 of them who just really move the stuff, and those 3 have all been laid off.
What
So
what about how? I mean, I'm seeing through the chat line. A correctional officer for the lockdown says Bank of America is licking their chops, and they're definitely going to try to take advantage of selling bogus home modification dreams to Black women homeowners like they did in 2008. And I've several people have brought this up. Are there any protections that we have? Um,
Mhm.
I mean, because I mean, what do you do when do you sell your house? I mean, you okay? You have one friend who's going to start renting out rooms. That's smart. Um, it's going to change the society as we know it because you're renting out rooms to people more than likely who you don't really know.
Exactly. Um, th- Things are falling apart. There's no other way to put it. Things are falling apart, and it is requiring people to rethink how they live, what they own, what they owe, and what they're dealing with. I would have, Bank of America is probably licking their chops, many other banks as well, when they're offering people loan modifications, which often mean you make a deal about how your terms of repayment change. So let's say you have a loan right now of, let's say, I don't know, $100,000, and maybe you're paying 2,000 a month on it, and
Hmm.
the interest rate is, let's say, 4.5%. Well, a loan modification might reduce your payment, but it would also probably increase your interest rate. And just read the fine print, have your lawyer look at it, and
It's still
they will tell you you don't need a lawyer. This is just standard. No, it isn't standard. It
well,
really isn't
correctional
standard.
officer for the lockdown. You all are asking a lot of important questions because guess what? It's hitting everybody. What about women with pensions?
Fewer people have pensions now than they ever have had before. More have 401ks and pensions. But, and probably, no, I know for this for a fact, fewer Black people, especially Black women, have pensions than others. If you have a pension, it is not likely to be affected. The terms that you signed up for are likely, I say likely, not always, likely to be honored. The challenge is your 401k, which is your investment into stocks and bonds. And usually your employer has someone who's managing the 401k, and that's a bit more precarious. And with the 401k, again, you're likely to get what you signed up for, but it fluctuates with the stock market. Now, for now, that's good news for a lot of people. The stock market is booming. Why are so many people miserable and the stock market is booming? That's a whole other question.
No, that is the question that I want you to answer.
Well, let me talk a little bit about
Okay.
the 401k first. Look at the terms of your 401k. In some terms and conditions, you may be able to roll some of it over out of the stock market and over into the bond market or someplace else. So that's within the realm of possibility. But understand what you're doing. Why is the stock market booming? Why everybody is so miserable? Because basically Wall Street loves misery. I that's the that's a flippant answer, but the fact is that, especially with the possibility of an interest rate cut, businesses are looking at the possibility of expansion. When the interest rate is cut, money is cheaper. When money is cheaper, it's easier to borrow, but it's easier to borrow for some people. We saw this at the end in 2008, and we also saw it during COVID.
Hmm.
Money was cheaper, but people who wanted money, people who were entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, small business, they couldn't get the money because the terms for borrowing were so stern. So everybody said we're getting the interest rate is going to go down and we're going to see economic expansion. Not really, because essentially, um, a lot of people couldn't qualify. So that's important to understand when we talk about they want to lower interest rates. That's for the multimillionaires, the billionaires, the people, they will borrow, they will qualify, and they will expand their businesses. Will they hire? I mean, again, the theory about lower interest rates, business expansion is that they'll hire people. They'll have to hire people. I'm not
Well,
so sure about that.
but how will AI impact the workplace? Because it seems like people are being replaced.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that should be the case, but that appears to be what is happening, Dr. Mallow.
AI makes a lot of people's lives a lot easier. AI, as opposed to going to the library, you go on AI and say, I'll make you laugh. So just earlier today, I mentioned, who did I mention? I mentioned Frederick Douglass to a young Black person who did not know who Frederick Douglass was, which I found. I mean,
Astounding.
yeah, I told him, I actually, because I don't like to laugh at young people or scream at them. So I told him, I said, I'm gonna have to put you on hold for a minute so I could go in the other room. Because I really want to say, where have you been? Who is your mama and daddy? What school did you go to? But I just, so then he said, when I came back to the phone, he said, oh, Dr. Melville, I just looked it up on AI. So he didn't have to go to the library. He put who is Frederick Douglass in AI, and he got an answer, and he felt very proud for himself. And so it's changing a lot of stuff. I mean, libraries, research. The thing about it, anybody who's listening, I have to tell y'all, AI is not always accurate.
Yes. So I'm just saying, when
It makes
when he was
mistakes.
told who Frederick Douglass is, what was he told?
Oh, he got it. They had it right.
Okay.
They had it right, but they do make mistakes. And as an example, I put my own name. I said, "Who is Julianne Melville?" I was trying to find something out. According to AI, I was born in 1898.
You do have a vintage name. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I got a bunch of cousins. That the Julianne
Oh.
is a family name. Um, but 1898.
But
I said,
but I'm disturbed because I, I I don't know how you have a society without people in it, Dr. Melville.
well,
And
you
it
don't.
seems like these people, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos who said that one day visiting Earth will be like visiting Disneyland. I'm like, so what are you saying? We're not going to exist here? I mean, what? No, he said this. And these are people who are spending all this time and money out in space. They built something up there. They just haven't told us, I'm sure, what it is. But Dr. Malvo, what does this say about the society? I mean, I need you to put on your philosophical hat now.
Well, the fact is that we've never fully valued people. We've always valued some people and not
Hmm.
all people. We know that from our own African American history in terms of how enslaved people were treated. So we don't value everybody. Um, which means, I mean, there is no moral soul of America. They like to say it is right now, as they're trying to make people feel sorry about that gentleman who was assassinated.
Charlie Kirk.
We're all sorry that a 31-year-old man who was apparently brilliant lost his life. But I had a very heated conversation with one of my white neighbors because I said, well, he was talking about how the whole country has devolved, has devolved, and I'm like, look, um, I, I told him, I said, look, Medgar Evers was assassinated
In front of his wife and children.
in his driveway. Dr. King was assassinated. Um, yeah,
In front of all the people who worked for him.
yeah, and we can go down the list. And so political assassinations are not new, but some political assassinations get more attention than others do. And that's just the way it is because that's just who it's the content of your character and the color of your skin. But so but this woman was saying, well, that was Medgar Evers was so long ago. Why are you still concerned about it? I said, the same reason I'm still concerned about enslavement, that your president says we have to stop talking about.
Well, what does it mean when you start removing pictures of? They're going to remove from one of the parks a photograph, an iconic photograph of a slave whose scars had keloided on his back. What does it mean as an educator? Need you to put that hat on now.
It,
Um,
it- yeah, no, Santita, it's very disturbing. It's basically we're trying to sanitize history. We're trying to take out the parts that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to have unpleasant conversations, and so we're trying to get rid of that. This president, in particular, seems to have an antipathy for talking about the real past. He just wants it to be sweetness and light and American exceptionalism and all of
but
that.
is that history, Dr. Melville?
No, it's not history. It's stupid.
I mean, because I mean, isn't history is truth, right?
History is truth, but these people don't want to tell the truth. Enslavement has always been an uncomfortable subject because frankly you would not have a United States of America if you did not have enslaved people. And
Explain that.
also what well, we built the White House with our hands. Enslaved people built the White House. They built the Capitol. We we built it. There would not have been a Southern economy, cotton, tobacco, were it not for the work of enslaved people. And we can go down the list. Of little white children might not be living without the breasts of enslaved women who often had to feed them when their own mamas couldn't do it. And people were actually hired, purchased based on their lactation. So no, we wouldn't be here without
Well,
enslaved people.
their mothers refused to do it because that was considered to be beneath them. But
Exactly.
they had us do. Well, let's just put no,
So
let's put that where that is.
and then they not only that, the entire southern economy was built on the backs of black people. Not only the mothers that suckled white children, um, the maids and others who cooked. These folks didn't know how to cook. They and and some of the ironies, Santita. I mean, there really are ironies involved because think about this: you hate these people so much, you demonize and villainize them, but you eat their food. I mean, seriously? I mean, do you? Every time I think about that, because my grandmother was well, she was a bunch of things. She was a Rosie the Riveter, Rosie Elizabeth Nelson. She was a lot of stuff, but
Mhm.
she actually worked at white people's houses off and on various times. And she had a saying, and she would always say when someone did something unjust or whatever, she said, I can bake a cake for him. That would be, you know, that would be her. I I
What?
come by it honest, Santita. I come by it honest.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Everyone, well, you know what? Let me tell you something. You got to be very careful how you treat people because, what is it? What is this? I think it's a Chinese saying that the servant is the master.
Mhm.
So, it seems like I think the female solution said that she took umbrage. I mean, I think appropriately she said, wait a minute, actually, I think things are falling together. All of the
Oh,
brilliant
yeah.
women who have built up other people's institutions are now being liberated to create their own companies. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a brilliant thought. I think it's a great thought. I think the issue always in terms of entrepreneurship is access to capital. Now, people, again, we built businesses. One of my favorite stories of Black women's ingenuity is Pigfoot Mary. Pigfoot Mary was a woman who, as many people did in the 1920s, they worked around. They might have a domestic job. They might be working as a caterer. They cobbled it together. They didn't have jobs like we do, where you had a regular 9 to 5. Well, Pigfoot Mary found an old baby carriage, and she took and put a hole in the baby carriage and some flame under the baby carriage, and she walked the streets of Harlem selling pig feet. And that was the foundation of her fortune. Before she made her transition, she owned over $300,000 in those days, which would be millions now, worth of real estate. She
Hmm.
also happened to marry the newsman, and so their combined estate was a couple $1 million. But he was a newsman, and according to some of the oral history, he probably was running numbers out of his little newsstand. But she was selling pig feet on the street, and she saw the guys were going to work. They didn't have their lunch pail. She figured people need food. I'm gonna figure out a way. And all she had was pig feet, and people bought it. Now, I was my non-pork eating self would take some issue with that,
There
but
you go. But I don't because you know what? Business is about meeting a need. Isn't that what A.G. Gaston said?
absolutely,
First,
he was
you
another
fill
one.
the need. Absolutely. I mean, and he's the one who everybody needed, including all of the professional people needed him to help them secure their homes, to stay
Exactly.
in his hotels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But so
So,
sister who raised a question is really asking the appropriate questions for a
yes.
couple reasons. One is that what we know, as she said, with all these brilliant Black women. So can these brilliant Black women figure out ways to get along and work together? You
Mhm.
know, you don't capture very many scale economies when you have a small business. So you want to have larger businesses. You want to be able to expand. You want to franchise. You want to do all that. Well, that requires us working together, and we don't always do that so well. Um,
Hmm.
so this is a time that's going to cause all of us to sit down and think about what we have and what we don't have, and how to multiply what we do have.
Well, because I think that she makes a point, and I appreciate it. This is not a time to mourn. This is a time for us to say, wait a minute, we've got lemons, let's make the lemonade. And
Absolutely.
I think that we can do that because having this one job where you made a comfortable living is really new to the African American experience, Dr. Malvo.
Yes. Yes.
And we were doing better before we got this one job. I mean, because I just know how the character of the neighborhood I grew up in changed because people who lived in the neighborhood, they were very comfortable people, doctors and lawyers. Doctors used to basically have their own businesses, everybody. Now medicine has changed. So the money's been pulled out of that. But doctors made a lot of money because individually a doctor was in business for him or herself. And then you just had people who were, you had a lot of entrepreneurs. And then in the 80s, things really changed, and I was always told, Dr. Malvo, you'll never get wealthy on someone else giving you a salary. That's just not how that
No.
works.
No.
So just moving forward, what do you see as the path forward at this time? I mean, as if you could, I mean, on your incredible platform on WPFW every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, pick up the megaphone and talk to these women. What should they, well, what should they be thinking about? What should they be doing?
The most important thing that I think Black women and all women should be doing right through here is cutting your spending all the way back. Just cutting it all the way back. Women spend. That's what we do. We feel good,
Yeah.
we buy. We feel bad, we buy. Got a new man, you got to get a new dress because it's a new man. Lose the man, you got to get a dress because you want to feel better about the fact that you
Yes.
have a
Now,
man.
look, I'm not mad about that. Come on.
No,
Yes.
I don't want anybody to feel bad, but I want to say that this is a time that we're not going to be spending on whim. We will be spending on on our good sense, which means, what would you rather have, a new dress or some new stock? Would you rather,
Hmm.
would you rather have, a new dress or a slice of a new business?
Should
And
we get stock now?
no, it's a little high right now, but check in with your financial advisor. There's some things out there though. There's some things out there that are coming out. Look at what the new releases are, things that are just coming onto the market. There's some possibilities.
Well, now, because everyone, Dr. Carol, Carol Soskin, my sister from another mister out in California, wants to let everyone know how, what is it, WPFW.org?
Yes,
W.org, because she said, wait a minute, we've got to let everyone know that this is Mondays
at 9 a.m. Eastern.
at 9 a.m. There you go. So I'm putting it out there. That's right, Carol. Carol wanted
Thank
me to
you,
make sure
Carol,
we
for
put that
asking.
right there. So just moving forward, Dr. Malvo, um, you're telling us to cut back on our spending, save. Would you advise people to sell a house or to begin taking in boarders, rent parties? What?
You're going to have to do whatever you can to survive. In terms of talking about selling your house, it just depends on what the market looks at in your area. Don't just don't jump and sell, but it depends on what the market looks like in your area, what some of the comms are, uh, the common things, and whether I mean, one of my decisions right now, I'm looking at my house and saying, do I need all this house? Do I really need all this house? Now I love my house. I'm very blessed to have it, but
Hmm.
as I walk up and down these 4 flights of steps,
Well, that's a lifestyle issue also at
it
this
is.
point in your life,
But
right?
but as we age, people will be making different lifestyle issues. And, I mean, and people have to think about that. And on the other hand, we have to think about the intergenerational issue of what are we trying to leave stuff for our kids and grandkids? Are we trying to? Because you don't have to, but if you're trying to leave something, you ought to think about that as well. And you may want to think about the house as not just your house, but a family gathering place, because some of our younger people are moving back in with their parents. This started a few years ago, but it's continuing, where many young people get out of college, don't have a good income, and they move back home.
But is
Now,
that a bad thing?
not necessarily. It depends on how the finances are managed. It's a bad thing that young people can't come out self-sufficient. Now,
Yeah.
my mom, when I came back with my doctorate and needed to stay with her for a few months, she charged me rent, and then when it was time for me to leave, she gave it back.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it
Mm-hmm.
was to basically deal with the savings habit. That's,
Mm-hmm.
and so people do things like that. But people need to have a better handle on what's going on and on their finances. And I think a lot of people do. I don't think that we're a bunch, but I think this administration, the cuts from Doge,
Mm-hmm.
the rising inflation, uh, and rising just plain old grocery prices. This has caused people to think about this from a very different perspective.
Do you think now that we're looking at things from a different perspective, um, I mean, and you see Americans beginning to make some very, very big decisions in terms of elected officials. Mamdani, Fateh in Minneapolis, St. Paul. These are declared democratic socialists who are saying, wait a minute, there has to be a common good. We have to have resources that we share with everybody. Do you think that that is? Do you see the political landscape changing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that it's changing in two directions. On the left, or at least in the democratic realm, you never used to hear the term democratic socialism bandied about. But now, thanks to Mamdani, it's something. Now, I don't think some of his ideas, quite frankly, are very good, and some
Mhm.
of them need to be flushed out more. Free groceries, hmm, you got to flush that out. For who? But some of his other things, I mean, free bus transportation. That's a neat idea. Why? Because it'll pull people out of their homes and onto the free buses, and
But also, wait a minute. When we think of all of the food that we waste in the United States, why not I mean, because people more and more people cannot afford food, Dr. Malvo.
no, I agree with you. I'm just saying that we still have to deal with
How to
distribution
do it.
issues. Yeah, but it's exciting to see the momentum. Well, Mamdani already had the momentum, so we don't have to worry about that. But now some of these mainstream Democrats, like Governor Hochul, um, are coming around and saying, "Yeah, I mean."
If she wants to win, she better.
And the question always, of course, there's always this so-called party loyalty, but it's party loyalty until you don't like somebody, you know.
Well, you
So,
know what? But I think that more and more Americans, Dr. Malvo, the young people for sure, have gone away from the parties.
oh, absolutely. No, they don't care about party loyalty. They vote for the candidate and for the issue, and they don't really deal with the party. Party registrations are down on
Yeah.
both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican. Young people don't like the rigidity that this party loyalty requires of them.
And
Um,
you know what? You know what they also don't like? If I vote for Mamdani or Fateh, guess what? The Democrats tell me we don't want him, and they reject the person I voted for. Are you serious right now? That doesn't work, Dr. Melvo. So
no, exactly.
what's your closing thought? I mean, because I think you're making me feel a lot. What Dave says, we want political freedom, and to you and me, still a cutie pie. Thank you, Robert Williams. Thank you, Dr. Melvo. There you go. So help me to understand. Help me
Well,
to understand what
my
do we do going forward?
closing thought is that this is a time to be as well informed as you can be, checking the sources of your information. In
Mm.
other words, if all you do is watch Fox News, you in trouble. You might as well not watch anything. But that's also perhaps true sometimes of MSNBC. So you got to check your sources and see what you're looking at. I tell my young people, read a newspaper. I mean, seriously, read a newspaper or two a day.
Go to independent media.
Absolutely.
They're the ones who, the
The
Guardian, but the Gray Zone, Democracy Now, Fair.org, these people, The Intercept, they are Common Dreams. They are giving you the news. And corporate media, they're not telling you. That
No,
means
they're not, and they're not going to, and that becomes a challenge. But my closing thought is be informed. Be informed. That's your job, is to be informed. You'll find if you just pick up, and I don't say the whole newspaper, although I do, but if you just spend 15 minutes on the headlines and look at the business section, and guys, the sports, fine. If you're into sports, fine, that's your business. But do you pass by the business section to get to the sports or the other way? So I'm just saying the biggest thing I can say to folks is be informed.
There's that. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, everybody, WPFW, WPFW.org, wherever you are, you can go there and hear her every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss it because she gives you some great information. Great information. Sending you so much love, Dr. J.
Always a pleasure, Santita. Take care.
God bless you. AM 950 Radio, the voice of